You were chosen, not randomly, not by accident, not because you happened to be standing in the wrong place at the wrong time, on the wrong day, in the wrong mood. Somewhere, in a moment you didn't recognize as significant at the time, someone studied you, quietly and carefully, and decided you were exactly what they were looking for. This is the part most people never want to hear, because it removes the comfort of randomness. They want to believe it was bad luck. They want to believe the person who hurt them simply lost control, made a mistake, or changed slowly over time, the way people sometimes do. They tell themselves stories that feel safer than the truth. They were going through a hard time. I caught them on a bad day. Things were different at the beginning, before everything changed. Thus, stories feel kind. They feel forgiving. But they are usually wrong. Manipulators don't gamble. They calculate. Before the first conversation ever happened, before the charm arrived, before the compliments started landing in exactly the right places, before the relationship even technically began, you were already being read, like a book left open on a table. This isn't about paranoia. It's not about assuming everyone around you has hidden motives, scanning every smile for a hidden agenda, or treating every kind word as a potential trap waiting to spring. Most people are exactly who they appear to be. Most kindness is simply kindness, offered without calculation, without strategy, without a hidden second layer underneath. But some people are not who they appear to be, and the ones who aren't have a method. A quiet, repeatable process for identifying who will tolerate them, who will excuse them, and who will stay even when the cost becomes unbearable. Think about it for a moment, honestly, without rushing past the question. Have you ever looked back at a relationship, a friendship, or even a work dynamic, and wondered, why me? Out of everyone they could have approached, why did they choose me specifically? That question deserves a real answer, not a comforting one. And the real answer is almost always the same. You weren't chosen because you were weak. You were chosen because of specific, identifiable traits that manipulators are trained, through repetition and lived experience, to recognize in other people, often within minutes of meeting them. By the end of this audiobook, you will understand exactly what manipulators look for in a target. You will see the traits they search for, the signals they test, and the patterns they exploit, one by one, until the entire process stops feeling like an unsolvable mystery and starts feeling like something you can finally see coming from a distance. And once you see it clearly, something changes inside you, quietly but permanently. You stop being the person who gets chosen. You start becoming the person they quietly walk past because the calculation, for the first time, doesn't favor them. Chapter 1. Why manipulators study people before they approach. Manipulators do not announce themselves. They do not walk into a room and declare their intentions, the way villains do in stories. Instead, they observe first, often long before any meaningful interaction even begins, sometimes for weeks before a single real conversation takes place. This observation phase is patient, unhurried, and almost entirely unremarkable on the surface. It looks like small talk. It looks like a casual question that seems harmless in the moment, the kind of thing anyone might ask. It looks like attentiveness, the kind most people would interpret reasonably as genuine interest in who they are. Do you get along with your family? Have you ever had a friend betray you? Do you forgive easily, or do you hold grudges? Are you close with a lot of people, or more of a private person who keeps to yourself? These aren't simple conversations exchanged in passing. They are interviews disguised as curiosity, structured questions wearing the costume of casual interest. And most people answer honestly, openly, sometimes even gratefully, because someone is finally asking. Finally seems to care about details that usually go unnoticed. They have no reason to suspect they're being evaluated, because evaluation, in their mind, only happens in formal settings, in interviews and exams, not in conversations over coffee or drinks after work. What manipulators are really searching for during this phase is simple, even if the process feels invisible from the outside. How much resistance will this person put up when something goes wrong? How long will it take to wear that resistance down, layer by layer? What does this person forgive quickly, without a second thought? And what do they hold firm on, even under pressure? They are mapping your emotional terrain in the way a surveyor maps land before deciding where to build, identifying the soft ground and the solid rock. It's important to understand something here that most people get wrong, something counterintuitive enough that it bears repeating. Manipulators are not looking for someone weak in the traditional sense of the word. Weak people, fragile and easily overwhelmed, are often guarded, defensive, anxious, and genuinely difficult to approach, because their guardedness is visible and obvious from the outset, raising red flags before any real interaction even begins. Manipulators are looking for someone generous instead, someone forgiving, someone who gives people the benefit of the doubt long after the doubt should have reasonably won the argument. Someone whose strength shows up as patience rather than suspicion, whose first instinct is understanding rather than caution. This is not a flaw in you, no matter how it might feel in hindsight. It's a signal they read. Kindness, patience, and trust are not weaknesses, no matter how often that confusion gets repeated by people trying to make sense of how they were hurt. But to a manipulator, conducting their quiet, ongoing research, those same admirable qualities are simply data points, useful information collected without your awareness or consent. The moment they sense generosity of spirit in you, a kind of internal calculation begins almost instantly, almost invisibly, and it doesn't stop until they've decided whether you're worth the investment of their continued attention and effort. This pattern repeats itself across contexts that might surprise you. It happens in romantic relationships, certainly, where it's most commonly discussed and most painfully felt. But it also happens in friendships that slowly become one-sided and draining. It happens in workplaces, where a colleague or even a manager identifies who will absorb extra work without complaint, who will stay quiet when credit is misallocated, who will smooth over conflict rather than raise it. It happens in family systems, sometimes for decades, where one person becomes the designated peacekeeper, the one who always gives in first, the one whose comfort is treated as expendable, because everyone has learned, through years of repetition, that this comfort will always be the first thing sacrificed. Recognizing this pattern doesn't mean assuming malicious intent in every new person who shows interest in your life. It means understanding that your natural generosity, the very thing that makes you a good friend, a good partner, a good colleague, is also visible to people who don't share your good intentions. And learning to hold that generosity alongside a quiet, watchful awareness changes everything about how the rest of this process unfolds. Chapter 2. Empathy as a vulnerability manipulators exploit. Empathy is one of the most beautiful human traits a person can possess. It allows connection, deep understanding, and genuine compassion for people whose lives look nothing like your own. whose struggles you've never personally experienced, but can somehow still feel the weight of. It is, in nearly every context most people will ever encounter, something to be proud of, something that makes the people around you feel less alone in difficult moments. But manipulators see empathy through a completely different lens, one stripped of sentiment. To them, empathy isn't a virtue to admire from a distance. It is a door, slightly ajar, waiting patiently to be pushed open at the right moment. A highly empathetic person tends to assume good intentions as a default setting, almost automatically, without consciously choosing to do so. They imagine the other person's pain, their backstory, the reasons behind their behavior, often before any explanation is even offered or requested. When a manipulator shares a sad story, perhaps a difficult childhood marked by genuine or exaggerated hardship, a string of painful betrayals at the hands of people who came before, or a narrative of being chronically misunderstood by everyone who ever mattered, the empathetic listener doesn't think, "This story might be exaggerated, selectively shared, or entirely manufactured to earn my sympathy and lower my guard." Instead, they think, almost instinctively, "This explains everything." And something inside them softens, often involuntarily, like a hand unclenching without conscious permission. Manipulators know this pattern intimately, whether or not they could ever articulate it in these exact clinical terms. They will often share vulnerability early in an interaction, sometimes startlingly early, not because they trust you yet, not because intimacy has been earned gradually through time and shared experience, but because they have learned, through trial and repetition across many previous relationships, that vulnerability disarms empathetic people almost instantly, like a key turning smoothly in a well-oiled lock. It buys forgiveness in advance for behavior that hasn't even happened yet, functioning like a deposit placed strategically against future damage that hasn't been done. Have you ever wondered why it was you? Why, out of everyone in the room, at the party, in the office, in that friend group, they gravitated toward you specifically, sought you out repeatedly, remembered small, seemingly insignificant details about your life that others around you forgot or never even asked about in the first place? It's often because your empathy told them, without you ever saying a single word out loud, that you would explain away the red flags before those red flags had even fully appeared on the horizon, before anyone else might have noticed something was off. This doesn't mean you should stop caring about people, stop listening to hard stories with genuine compassion, or stop offering empathy to those who are genuinely struggling through difficult circumstances. The world, frankly, needs more empathy, not less of it. What it means, instead, is that you need to separate empathy for someone's pain from excusing someone's behavior toward you. Those are two entirely different things, related in feeling but distinct in consequence. And manipulators count, quietly and consistently, on you confusing them, on you allowing one to bleed into justifying the other. A useful distinction to hold on to moving forward is this: understanding why someone might behave a certain way is not the same as accepting that behavior as something you must tolerate indefinitely. You can hold compassion for someone's history while still maintaining clear, firm expectations for how they treat you in the present. These two things are not in conflict with each other, no matter how often manipulators try to convince you they are. Framing any boundary you set as a lack of compassion, as proof that you don't truly understand or care about their pain. Chapter 3: People-pleasing and the fear of conflict as a green light. If empathy is the door, slightly open and inviting anyone who looks closely enough, people-pleasing is the open invitation sitting on the table just inside, signed, sealed, and waiting to be accepted. Manipulators don't fear confrontation from someone who avoids it entirely. In fact, they are drawn toward that avoidance the way water naturally finds the lowest point in any landscape, flowing toward the path of least resistance without effort or hesitation. A person who fears conflict will absorb disrespect quietly, sometimes without even fully registering, in the moment, that disrespect actually occurred. They will let a comment slide that should have been addressed directly and immediately. They will laugh off a boundary violation instead of naming it clearly, turning something that hurt into a joke to diffuse the tension they feel building inside themselves. They will apologize first, even when they did absolutely nothing wrong, simply to restore peace as quickly as possible. Because the discomfort of tension feels worse in that immediate moment than the long-term cost of conceding ground they shouldn't have conceded in the first place. To a manipulator, this pattern is not just convenient. It's the green light they were quietly testing for during that earlier observation phase we discussed in Chapter 1. There will be no confrontation to manage carefully, no accountability to dodge or deflect, no real, lasting consequences to navigate around. Just quiet compliance, dressed up convincingly as kindness, as patience, as a genuine desire to keep the peace at almost any cost. Manipulators don't gamble, they calculate. And a person who avoids conflict represents, in their internal, largely unconscious cost-benefit analysis, a low-risk, high-reward target, the kind of person who makes their entire strategy easier to execute and sustain over time. This isn't your fault, and it never was, no matter how the aftermath might make you feel about yourself. It's a signal they read, the same way a predator reads hesitation in prey, not necessarily out of malice toward you personally, but out of pattern recognition built carefully from years of accumulated experience with people just like you. But once you understand that your discomfort with conflict is something being tracked, measured, and exploited by someone paying closer attention than you realized, you can begin to tolerate that discomfort on purpose, deliberately, in small, manageable doses, until it no longer feels unbearable or overwhelming the way it once did. That tolerance, built slowly and intentionally over time, is what makes you unreadable to people who are quietly counting on your silence to do their work for them, who are relying on your discomfort to smooth over their own bad behavior. If this is resonating with you right now, even slightly, even uncomfortably, share this with someone you know who struggles to say no, who apologizes too often for things that were never their fault to begin with, who has been quietly absorbing more than they should for far too long without anyone naming what's actually happening to them. Sometimes, the most important thing you can give another person isn't advice or a solution. It's simply the language to recognize what's actually happening to them. Because once something finally has a name, it becomes much harder to dismiss, minimize, or explain away. Chapter 4: Isolation and Loneliness as an Entry Point. Manipulators are drawn, almost magnetically, to people in transition. Someone new to a city, without an established social circle yet, still learning which coffee shop to frequent and which neighbors to trust. Someone recently out of a long relationship, still adjusting to the unfamiliar quiet of being alone after years of not being. Someone grieving a significant loss, whether of a person, a job, an identity, or a future they had planned around. Someone isolated from family, whether by physical distance, unresolved conflict, or simple circumstance that accumulated slowly over years. Someone struggling socially, watching others connect with apparent ease while feeling perpetually, painfully on the outside looking in. This isn't because manipulators are predatory in some cartoonish, obviously sinister sense, twirling a metaphorical mustache while they plan. It's because isolated people have fewer outside voices available to check their perception of reality against. Fewer people who might notice something is wrong before it becomes undeniable. When you have close friends, a tight-knit family, a community that genuinely knows you and pays attention to your life, manipulation becomes significantly more difficult to sustain over time. Someone in that network will eventually notice the change in you. The way your laugh sounds different. The way you've gone quiet about certain topics. Someone will ask, perhaps gently over dinner, perhaps directly and without warning, why does this relationship seem to make you smaller instead of bigger? Isolation removes that crucial safety net entirely, leaving no one positioned to ask the question at all. A manipulator entering the life of someone lonely often appears at exactly the right moment, almost suspiciously well-timed in a way that feels, at the time, like nothing short of fate or destiny. They offer exactly what seems to be missing from that person's life. Attention, focused and intense. Validation, specific and personal. The unmistakable feeling of finally being chosen, seen, understood in a way no one else has managed before. It feels, in the moment, less like manipulation and more like rescue, like relief finally arriving, right when it was needed most, desperately. That feeling, as comforting and overwhelming as it is often by design rather than coincidence, calculated rather than spontaneous. Have you ever wondered why it was you? Sometimes it's simply because you were going through something quiet and difficult, something you hadn't fully voiced to anyone else yet, something you were carrying mostly alone, and someone noticed before anyone else did. Not necessarily to help you, though it may have genuinely felt that way at the time, but to position themselves carefully as the only one who truly understood, the only safe harbor in a sea that suddenly felt very large, very cold, and very empty. This isn't a flaw in you, it's a signal they read. The lesson here isn't to never trust anyone during difficult periods of life, becoming permanently suspicious of comfort whenever it arrives, treating every kindness during hardship as a potential trap. The lesson is to keep at least one honest, outside perspective in your life. Even during isolation, especially during isolation, because that single thread of outside truth is often the exact thing that eventually breaks the spell when nothing else can reach you. When everything inside the relationship feels designed to keep that outside perspective at a careful distance. Chapter 5. Low self-worth and the hunger for validation. Manipulators are remarkably skilled, often without ever consciously realizing they're applying a learned skill at all, at sensing where someone doubts themselves, where the quiet cracks in self-perception sit just beneath the surface. A person who is genuinely confident in their own value doesn't need constant reassurance from someone new to their life, doesn't require a steady stream of praise to feel secure in who they are. But a person quietly wrestling with feelings of unworthiness, even if that struggle is entirely invisible to everyone around them, even if they themselves haven't fully named it, will respond intensely to validation, even from someone they barely know, someone who hasn't yet earned the weight their words seem to carry. This is precisely why love bombing works as effectively and as consistently as it does across so many different people and situations. Excessive early praise, delivered with apparent sincerity. Constant attention that feels almost overwhelming in its intensity and frequency. Dramatic declarations about how special you are, how utterly different you are from everyone else they've ever known, dated, or befriended before you. To someone with healthy, stable self-worth, this kind of intensity can feel like too much, too fast, and naturally triggers a sense of caution, an instinct to slow things down. To someone hungry for validation, though, someone who has waited a long time to feel truly seen, it feels like finally being recognized and appreciated the exact way they always secretly hoped they would be. Manipulators don't gamble, they calculate. And the intensity of their early attention is often a direct, carefully calibrated response to how quickly and visibly you respond to praise in those first encounters. If you light up, if your face changes, if you lean in closer and ask for more, they intensify their approach accordingly. If you stay neutral, measured, or appropriately cautious in response, they often quietly move on towards someone more responsive, someone whose hunger sits closer to the surface and requires less effort to reach. This isn't your fault. It's a signal they read. The antidote isn't to reject all compliments outright, becoming someone who deflects every kind word with suspicion, or to assume everyone who praises you harbors bad intentions, growing cynical about every genuine gesture you receive. The antidote, instead, is building a self-worth that exists independently of outside validation, rooted in something internal, stable, and entirely your own. So that when validation does eventually arrive, whether intense or modest, sincere or strategic, it doesn't fundamentally change your decision-making or cloud your judgment in the moment. You now understand 5 of the core traits manipulators search for during that initial observation phase. A willingness to give the benefit of the doubt, an empathy that excuses behavior before it's fully understood, a fear of conflict that signals easy compliance, an isolation that removes outside perspective, and a hunger for validation that overrides caution. But there are 5 more patterns still to uncover, patterns that determine not just whether you get chosen, but how deeply the manipulation takes root once it begins. Chapter 6. How manipulators test boundaries. Early. Before a manipulator ever crosses a major line, they test a small one first. This is rarely dramatic. It looks like showing up 20 minutes late without an apology. It looks like a joke that lands a little too close to something tender, followed by, "I'm just teasing, don't be so sensitive." It looks like reading a text and not replying for a day, then acting as if nothing happened. These moments are not mistakes. They are experiments. What they're really measuring is simple. Will you say something? And if you do, how easily can that objection be talked away? If you let the small things slide, the next test gets slightly bigger. If you push back firmly, many manipulators recalibrate or move on, because resistance this early is expensive and inconvenient for their plan. The boundary testing phase is quiet, incremental, and almost always disguised as something too small to make a fuss about. This is why the people who say, "It started so small, I don't even know when it became this," are describing something real, not exaggerating in hindsight. The first violation was never about the lateness or the joke. It was about whether you would hold a line. Holding small lines, even ones that feel petty to mention out loud, is one of the most effective things you can do early in any relationship. Chapter 7. The forgiveness reflex and why it gets exploited. Some people forgive quickly, almost as a personality trait. A reflex built from years of being told that holding onto frustration makes you the difficult one. Manipulators love this reflex because it means consequences expire fast. An apology, even a shallow one, resets the relationship to zero. There is no accumulation of evidence, no pattern forming in your mind, because each incident gets filed away separately instead of connected to the ones before it. A useful shift here is learning to forgive the person while still keeping the pattern in view. You can let go of resentment and still notice that this is the fourth time the same kind of hurt has shown up wearing a different outfit. Forgiveness was never meant to erase memory. Manipulators count on you confusing the two. Chapter 8. How to recognize you're being profiled in real time. By now, the pattern should feel less abstract. In real time, profiling often sounds like questions that feel oddly specific for how early they're being asked. It looks like someone mirroring your opinions back to you almost exactly, agreeing with everything a little too smoothly. It looks like compliments that target the exact insecurity you didn't know was visible. None of these signs, alone, proves anything. People ask personal questions out of genuine curiosity all the time. The signal isn't any single moment. It's the speed and the precision together, how quickly someone seems to know exactly which lever to pull, and how rarely they ask anything that doesn't seem to circle back toward what you'll tolerate. Chapter 9. Becoming someone manipulators learn to walk past. You don't become undesirable to a manipulator by becoming cold, suspicious, or closed off. You become undesirable by becoming inconvenient, by responding to small violations immediately instead of letting them accumulate, by separating compassion for someone's story from tolerance of their behavior, by keeping at least one outside voice close enough to ask you hard questions. Manipulators don't gamble, they calculate, and the moment the math stops favoring them, most of them quietly redirect their attention elsewhere, often without you ever knowing a calculation was even being made. Chapter 10. Integration, carrying this forward. Everything in this audiobook points back to the same truth. You were never chosen because something was wrong with you. You were chosen because something was right with you. Generosity, empathy, patience, a forgiving heart. And someone learned to use those qualities against you instead of honoring them. None of these traits need to disappear. They simply need a witness standing beside them. A little more attention, a little less automatic trust in the first weeks of anything new, a willingness to hold a small line even when it feels uncomfortable to do so. If this audiobook gave you language for something you've lived through, share it with someone who needs that same language today. Sometimes recognition is the first real step out of a pattern that's gone unnamed for far too long. If this audiobook gave you language for something you've lived through, share it with someone who needs that same language today. Sometimes recognition is the first real step out of a pattern that's gone unnamed for far too long. This has been Beyond Pages. If you'd like to keep building a sharper, calmer mind, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next chapter.